Welcome, IT changemakers, to the Dex Show with Tim Flower and Tom McGraw. Let's get into it.
Hello, changemakers. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2026 on the Dex Show. Welcome to 2026, I should say, on Reality Bytes, because the Dex Show's already gone live this year, and it's almost a consistent tradition that we bring the Reality Bytes team together to do our predictions for the new year. But I have to say, Tim, right, something I did in preparation for this episode was I thought, well, I will go back and I will briefly look at everyone's predictions last year. Not in a kind of like hyper. I don't want to intimidate anyone from making their predictions, right? I don't want to hold anyone too much to account. But I thought it'd be interesting. And I noticed I don't think we did it last year, but we did do it the year before. And just a word about those, Tim. You had the best one because you spoke in the beginning of 2024 about consolidation in the deck sector. So you were kind of
2025.
2024. So I'm going back
2 years.
2 years.
All right.
This is what I did. And you spoke about consolidation in the deck sector. So hats off to you, mate.
Cool.
You were a step ahead.
Just call me Nostradamus of IT.
Plus Tim Nostradamus. And Dina, you blew my mind a little bit, right? Because it was on that episode that you brought the theme to the discussion about how prescient the Matrix is, right? And it being your favorite movie, but also just how prescient it is. And since we had that chat, Dina, I have since rewatched The Matrix. I rewatched it about a month ago with my eldest, who was watching it for the first time, and my mind was blown. Like it's so eerie, right? And they're just like AI has
Especially when you watch all of them together, like in sequence, it gives you a different perspective than just watching the first one, the first part, 20 years ago, more or less, and then the remaining ones. I think the latest was released a couple of years ago, right? So when you're watching all of them together, and then you see back then it was something that might have happened, science fictional movies kind of things, but now that you're in it, it just feels different.
I have to. Now that you're in it, now that you're in the Matrix hits differently. I have to say, like, I was like, yeah, that's the thing. So I haven't seen the other two, but the first movie, obviously a classic. But yeah, the fact that it's made in the 1990s, I'm pretty sure it's like 1999 or something, right? And
I think so.
People were still kind of having to make sure no one was using the telephone when they were online. And like you go on it feels uncanny that it was able to, symbolically and in storytelling, just nail the next like 30 years seemingly, right? It is bizarre and extremely powerful. And you bringing that to the table, Dina, felt like a prediction in and of itself. So
I was actually thinking the same this morning, that we should reflect on what our last predictions were.
Did you go look them up as well?
Yeah. So it's been, and I think more or less, not just only on the predictions, on many of the multiple occasions throughout the year, we have hit lots of things that are actually becoming a trend, or now is business as usual, right?
Not just our predictions, Dina, but everything we say here is gold.
Of course.
It's all gold. It's all unalloyed gold. Absolutely, I completely concur. Were there any that you came across? Because mine was a very quick look, Dina. Was there any you came across that were all, from those episodes or others that felt particularly prescient to you from anybody on the?
Generally the ones where we are talking about how the new use of the GPTs and such things will just remain personal, but then now it becomes more and more into the enterprise aspect of things, and companies are adopting it more or less. So this is where it became interesting for me to see. But my predictions for 2026 would be around the transformational challenges integration, meaning having the agentic enterprise in action, or seeing the agentic enterprise in action, moving from the pilots and the testing of all the GPTs that we've been doing into real use cases, and finding KPIs or measures for the impact and the value of what would be automated, maintaining, of course, the quality and the compliance and efficiency of whatever we're doing on the smaller tasks and day-to-day tasks versus what could remain human controlled or needs to remain human centric. And of course, this highlights the human fingerprint. And I think we've spoken or mentioned this on the show a few episodes ago. So not just in the day-to-day tasks, but the overall value and how to get into the journey aspect of things, not just to get a task done, but have that correlative aspect of thinking ahead, just finishing that task off. What is it going to be used for next and how you can keep on building on top of it. The last predictive bit is training humans to train AI and AI to train humans. So we need to build that ecosystem of continuous improvement for both, how we are feeding information into AI and how it will benefit us to actually help us train ourselves to get better at the tasks and automation aspects that we do. Not just from the enterprise aspect, but I think also on the personal use, the improvement and more use cases are going to be there, the better quality it would become.
Very cool. I'm keen. I'm keen. I have to say to hear, particularly keen to hear Oriana's today, because I think ours are a bit similar. Oriana, is that right? We have a bit of a crossover path.
Yes, yeah. I was going to say I totally agree with a lot of what Dina's saying around one of the biggest things I think we're going to see this year is organizations trying to figure out how to measure the impact of AI. That's something that I've been talking to a lot of our customers about. And it's a big challenge, and people are approaching it from a lot of different angles. And I know that one of the big components to that too is that I think we're getting a little bit past the hype cycle into, okay, but what does AI really do, right? And how can it also go wrong? How can it be misused? How do we make sure that we are using it in human-centered ways, but also in business-centered ways, right? Like both of those things are major concerns on the enterprise level. And I think on the personal level too, we have both of those concerns, right? There's how do we make sure that it's giving us good information? And then there's how do we make sure that we're using it the right way? Two of the biggest things I've heard in the conversations with our customers is, you know, we kind of know which tools we want to use. We know how to build some safeguards, but even with approved tools, right? Even when you have a good ecosystem and process in place, there are still risks. If you put the wrong data into the AI, if you ask the AI the wrong questions, right? And I think that's one of the most interesting ones is which tasks do we want to use AI for and which don't? And I think that's one of the things we're going to hear a lot about is trying to figure out what is an appropriate use of AI, because AI means so many things now, some of which are really incredible, like borderline magical, and some of which are really dangerous. And I think we're going to start seeing that sift out this year.
Would it be fair to say, in a way, Oriana, it sounds a bit like one way I was thinking about putting it myself was like we'll see the first true AI crises this year. Do you know what I mean? And I don't even mean that as like a negative prognosis on AI. I just mean whenever you have something an epical technology, you know what I mean? Like there's going to be crises, there's going to be unpredictable elements of it, right?
Yeah, and we're already starting to see that a little bit, right? So, I mean, I'm interested. So I've been looking at some of the lawsuits that are coming up, right? Where AI gives bad data and it can tank a business. And right now it's mostly small businesses. And I think we're going to start to see that scaling up. We've seen businesses try to change their business model and then pivot back because they realized that it wasn't quite sustainable yet. And I think these really big gambles mean, sometimes really big payoffs and sometimes really big losses. And we're going to start to, I think, have more frank discussions about that.
I think that's very fair. And let's build up to you, Tim. I think as our as our chief prognostician, as our Nostratindis, we'll get to yours last. But I will, because I'm gonna insert my own one here because the way I was thinking about it is okay. I mean, it might be just a bit too generic and obvious a thing to say, but there'll be a crisis around AI. Of course, there will, as you just said Orion so well. There's going to be multiple ones, small ones, medium ones, and large ones. But I want to make a prediction that may or may not come to pass about a particular type of large scale crises that I anticipate. I think there's going to be a crisis. It might be like inside an industry or inside the economy in the broader sense, whereby some function that we kind of typically take for granted, it could be HR, could be accounting, something like that, which has been quietly transformed through AI, has been quietly transforming itself through AI and automating much more and outsourcing much more of what it does to AI. We'll suddenly notice something isn't quite right working in a macro scale with that function. We'll suddenly notice there's some kind of like mediocrity or failure that's entered that function that people aren't quite sure what it is, but there'll be a general agreement that what it is, in fact, has been incautious or overzealous or simply unpredictable, an unpredictable consequence of AI transformation. So I'm going out on a limb, Tim. I'm trying to follow your lead there and say something bold and that can be that can be weighed at the end of the year and hopefully successfully.
Yeah, so I'll give you my kind of 2 cents. It's not going out too far on a limb here, but AI, conversational AI, we've been at it for a couple of years now. But I think 2025, this last year, we really got good at prompt engineering, which basically means we've learned how to talk with AI and it's learned how to talk with us. 2026, if 2025 was the conversational year of AI, 2026 is going to be the operational year of AI. And I think you've all touched on this a little bit, but here's what I mean. In 2026, AI is now going to move from, and we had a customer phrase it as, I don't want a chat bot, I want a do bot. And it's going to do more of the work. But right now, the co-pilots and other agents that we're working with, they answer questions, they provide advice and guidance, but we're moving to a place where it's going to take action, and we're already seeing it, right? Fixing issues, making changes, orchestrating workflows, giving us AI coaching. And what we're seeing, though, this year is it does it without being prompted by a human. The human in the middle isn't needed anymore. And that's where we run into the big paradox. What's more important, a productivity boost or a job? Right? It's coming down to kind of figuring that out. So I think if I can kind of maybe make the parallel into the DexOps teams, Dex is digital employee experience. But Dex is going to need to start supporting the actual digital employees as well as the humans, right? Think about, we've touted this concept of the death of the help desk. Well, there's this concept also of the death of SaaS, the death of software. AI is just going to run it all for us. But think about the ecosystem that we operate in, all of the cloud applications, all the local applications, the integrations that happen, the variability and configurations that can differ from one app to the next. And to replace that, for AI to come in and broadly replace that is a huge effort. So what we're seeing and what we'll continue to see in phase one is AI is just going to operate the as-is environments, but without the human, right? Just automate things. Agents are going to log in, they're going to execute tasks and run our processes. But what happens when that fails, right? If the application crashes or something's done wrong, there's no human to call the help desk anymore. You have no tickets because there's no human to call the help desk. So I'll give you an example. And you talked about a catastrophe. It could have been a catastrophe, but I saw this video today. Think about what Uber did for the taxi service, right? It automated the orchestration, but you still needed the driver. Waymo is automating the driver. You don't need the human to get you from place to place anymore. But here's the catastrophe in the making. The video I saw just today, Tom. There was a Waymo on a city street, busy city street, but the street was the rails for the commuter rail going down the middle of the city. And the Waymo was right in front of the commuter train. And thankfully, the commuter train was only going 2 or 3 miles an hour. He was able to stop, and the passenger hopped out. He didn't know what to do. But if that was a speeding bullet train, there's a catastrophe. And who takes the blame for it? There's no driver to blame. So that automation piece, I think, has got a long way to go. But so here's my prediction is we're going to see that continue to evolve and get better. And we're going to have more and more of that paradox of productivity versus employment.
I got to bring it back to you, Oriana, if you don't mind. Thinking about that very vivid illustration of Waymo on the tracks, and the themes that Tim picks up on, where you have that, that what's more important? How did you put it, Tim? What's more important,
Productivity or a job?
Productivity or a job? Yeah. It's a big question. And I know this is it's a theme you've picked up on consistently in the past, Oriana, but what do you think that points to for 2026?
I think I want to almost challenge that question a little bit, if it's okay. I think one of my concerns is that, and here's my thing. Anytime we ask like 2 option questions, I always ask, okay, but what's the third factor we're forgetting? Because that's just my approach as a researcher. And
Sure.
when we say I feel like the question is sometimes, is the question between productivity and a job? Because that seems counterintuitive to me in a way. And I think one of the problems that I'm seeing is that we're asking these questions and forgetting to look at the context. And I don't say we as in us here, but rather like socially at large. It's going to be very easy to pose that question and then try and weigh the pros and cons of 2 things that aren't opposite, right? It's really what will help us achieve productivity. And I think often the job is part of that. And sometimes the job has to change, right? And I think that's one of the things that we'll see is changing jobs. My concern as a skeptic is often that they're not going to change for the better. They're going to change for the short-term profit. And we've talked about this before, right? The sort of race to the bottom where you can invest for long-term productivity, profitability, sustained growth, or for short-term profit, maximum impact that does not serve your business in the long run. And I think that's really, to me, the question is, are you going to invest in AI to make sure that you are on the leading edge of adoption? Or are you going to invest in AI in a way that builds sustainable, repeatable workflows that are going to support your human employees in being more effective, maybe even be able to reduce burnout because you are reducing that, boring work? Or are you going to implement it in ways that increase the dehumanization of work, that make work feel even more impersonal, and that remove a lot of the things that make working in complex and challenging tasks enjoyable, right? Because I think all of us need some amount of challenge in our work. That's what makes it fun and interesting. And I want to do more of that and not have the AI do that and have me having to be like a spell checker for the AI, right? Should be the other way around. So that's was my take, going to be my take. Let's make sure the AI is doing the laundry so we can do the art and engineering, not the other way around.
Nice. Less a prediction, more a kind of I don't know, yeah, like a pertinent kind of crossroads or the overhanging theme or question mark over the year, if you will, Oriana. I like it a lot.
Sorry. Maybe my prediction is
I think you give
that there's going to be some like optimistic and pessimistic takes on this. And the optimistic part of me thinks that there's some companies who are really going to nail that. And the pessimistic part of me thinks that a lot of places are going to do it wrong first.
That makes sense. You heard it here first, everybody. There will be good and bad in 2026. Best we can hope for, perhaps. And Tim, I think you've given us the title for the episode: Waymo on the Tracks.
Waymo on the tracks. Cool.
Waymo on the Tracks 2026 predictions.
To make sure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a rating of the show. Just tap the number of stars you think the podcast deserves. If you'd like to learn more about how NextThink can help you improve your digital employee experience, head over to nextthink.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.